For today's review, I'm going to be talking about a movie that simply has me in awe, mostly because it's the only good movie that Paul W.S. Anderson has ever done, and that's Event Horizon. It stars Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill as the explorers in space who happen upon a ghost ship, basically, that was designed to basically work as a black hole, get through, bend space and time, matter of milliseconds, but it seems to have happened upon opening the gates to hell, it would seem, and basically it's like Hellraiser in space. Hellraiser meets Aliens, so it's kind of a cool mix of horror genres, particularly sci-fi horror, which I think it melds pretty well. Definitely the only legitimately good Paul W.S. Anderson movie. And, okay, I'll watch Resident Evil. I find it fun. I find it sort of a guilty pleasure, but it's a piece of shit movie. I mean, there's no way it's a good movie. Even like Alien versus Predator, can you really say it's a good movie, even if you enjoy it? But anyway, I think this is a legitimately good movie. Definitely, I mean, it's a little bit derivative, of course, of movies like Alien. Things like that, basically. Very derivative of Alien. Has some same kind of tone to it. But I think, as Quentin Tarantino would say, great artists don't pay homage. Great artists rip off. And I think this is a good rip off of that type of style. We have a very brooding type of atmosphere to it that I think is very effective in creating the mood of the movie. There's some really great visuals to the movie, too. And when we look to sci-fi movies, especially when they do happen upon the horror genre, we see a lot of movies that tend to look the same, because Alien, I mean, that was kind of the game changer, to use a kind of cliched phrase, but we see so many movies, with these dark corridors and the flashing lights, but this movie has, but it brings almost like this surrealistic edge to it, which it looks like, this nightmarish type of kind of work, basically, because it is. I mean, it's showing visions of hell in the movie, and how the ship Event Horizon, it wants to collect these souls, and it wants to make everybody stay forever and ever and ever. It's like the Overlook Hotel, almost, basically. So I think it's really good, and the visuals are very good, and it is a scary movie. I wouldn't say it's perfect, though. I mean, in terms of characters, I mean, there's nothing really special here. We have the Lawrence Fishburne character, who's pretty one-noted, who's like, I'm the no-nonsense captain of the ship. We have the other guy who's kind of like the jokester. I think something like, say, Prometheus, people give a hard time for the characters, but here, I mean, it's pretty one-noted. Sam Neill, though, I think he's very good as this tortured scientist who has this dark past. Well, they all have dark pasts, but he has a wife who we learn had killed herself because he wasn't giving her attention. So he's as afraid of the ship as he is compelled by it, and the ship, the Event Horizon, just kind of consumes him until he becomes the villain of the movie. And I think it's all done in a way that doesn't feel like they just kind of cut corners or did this just because the plot required it to. I think it does get from, say, point A to B in a fair way, which ironically the ship was not doing, so it caused all this craziness to happen. So I think Sam Neill is very strong, and I gotta commend Sam Neill for being such a prominent figure in horror films. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, everyone knows Sam Neill from Jurassic Park, right? But that was his big monster movie. Meanwhile, he's done, so many horror movies, including this. The Omen 3. He's brilliant in The Omen 3. And he's always kind of coming back to horror. So he has a very extensive horror resume, and I think this is among his best roles, actually. The movie is violent and scary, has some very gruesome imagery to it, gruesome deaths too. I do know, I've heard, reading about the movie, that there were portions of the movie that are even more extreme than what we see, extreme to the max, but they were cut out and apparently lost forever, which is disappointing, because I would love to see a restored director's cut, kind of bring back all the kind of NC-17 content of the movie. But for what it is, I think it works fine. Good effects in the movie. This was from a time, I think it's 1997, I believe. 97, 98. So this wasn't quite at a time where every single thing would be CGI. So we see some model work, some very good model work with the ships. And when we do see CGI, like there's like a coolant leak, and we see like these globs of like CGI all over the place. I'm like, come on, this CGI, this is flubber in this ship. So that's not really that great. So I mean, I'm glad they kind of stuck with. Kind of the tried and true methods of sci-fi special effects, which I think have been lost in more recent years. So I think this is kind of one of the last kind of great uses of mostly practical effects, mostly model work for a sci-fi adventure, thriller, horror, space opera kind of movie. So I think it has that going for it, and it promised many great things from Paul W.S. Anderson, which he didn't deliver on. I regret to say, but this is a unique film, as among one of his best. It's very scary, actually. It's a very frightening movie, and again has some haunting visuals. And I think it is worthy of being in the same company as something like Alien, as something like even like in terms of, let's say, like sci-fi alien horror monster movies like the Thing, or and anything of that nature, basically. So I think it kind of stands above in the genre, basically. Certainly more than something like, what was that movie, Pandorum, or whatever the fuck. Anyway, I think it's good. Paul W.S. Anderson, he did a good movie. Lawrence Fishburne is good, despite some limitations with the character. Sam Neill is very good, and it's an enjoyable movie. It's a vision of hell in space, so can't go wrong there. If you like your sci-fi horror, you'll really like this, and I think it's a good flick. So that's my review of Event Horizon. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com, and stay tuned for more October horror movie reviews. Got plenty more to come. Stay tuned for those, and in the meantime, stay scared, and I'll see you later.